Okay, in this course, like making learning strategies visible, I usually begin the sessions talking about strategies, the definition of strategies, and some examples of learning strategies. There is this other activity that I do in class with the students that I want to do with you. The objective of this second session is make students aware of their role as language learners, so we have to shape their behavior. So something that I do in class is I begin writing the word study on the board and give students sometimes to come up with the definition of study. So they always say like review, exercise, practice, and you can write all those words on the board if you want. So when they answer that, so you can write in the corner, like they say practice, review, they say memorize, they say learn, or whatever. Then you tell them that really the definition of study is an organized understanding. One of my strategies to help students memorize words or definitions is that when I write the definition, I use 2 or 3 keywords only. The definition of study is really this: organized understanding of the aspects associated with an activity. You study to learn, to increase your knowledge, to get a sense of understanding and wonder. You can also write this definition in Spanish or in English according to the level. Usually when it's Fundamental 1 that I do this activity the first week of class, I write it in Spanish and I give it to them in pieces of paper, but on the board I write it in English like that, organized understanding. Then I emphasize the word organized. What does that mean? That you need to follow sequence, like some steps, like everything you do in life. So first you do this, then you do this, then you do this, then you do this, and you continue. And then that's gonna help you understand if you study in an organized way. Okay, that's the first thing I do with them. Then I tell them that when they come to the Colombo and they want to study English, that's something else. Because study English includes not only memorizing words and vocabulary and grammar rules, but they have to develop some skills, right? Usually I explain the word develop and skills, like abilities, and I tell them that there are like four language skills that they have to develop. And I ask them and I give them time to think and to tell me what those 4 language skills are. Usually they say speaking, they say writing, or whatever, but then I tell them, right, after they have finished with all these discussion, that really for me, and this is for me, like Anuar Bolaños, I say that listening is the most important skill to develop. Then we're gonna have speaking, and of course reading and writing. I tell them that usually, okay, these 4 skills have some percentages of importance, and I always told them that I consider that listening is 80% of the learning. No listening, no speaking, and speaking is just the 10%. Then I tell them, look, if you take these 2 together, right, and you add these 2 numbers together, right, as a result, you're gonna have like 90%. So if you can speak 90% of the language, you already speak the language. Of course, these other two skills that we have here, like reading, that could be like a 5%, or writing, that is 5% as well. If you put these skills together and you focus only on practicing reading and writing, that's gonna be only 10%. Maybe that's one of the reasons why in high school, when all the classes are focused on reading, grammar rules, translating, writing, completing exercises, we only practice 10% because we never practice listening or speaking in class. The Colombo Americano, we have a conversational methodology, so we focus on developing these two. Now, how to develop listening, right? Well, of course, we use the CD in class, but we also recommend them to watch television in English, internet in English, YouTube, all these series that they have, right? So they can really get into this. Now, I left a blank space here in this area because when we're working at the Colombo with the rubrics, we not only have this for language skills, but we also have another important aspect there, that is the study skills, right? So that's the objective of this session, to develop study skills. So some students need to shape behavior, right? Shape behavior. I learned this from Judy in the mural course that I took with her. Shape behavior of the students. So the students have to develop some skills in order to later develop the language skills. Okay. When I help students in the office, struggling students with tutoring, the first thing they say, teacher, I don't have time to study. So there's one exercise that I do in class with them, that is this, using this chart, right, that it says here, usar los tiempos muertos del día para estudiar inglés. I have it in Spanish so they can understand that these tiempos muertos, what is that? I mean, is all this time when you're playing with the cell phone or just hanging around or whatever. So you say, I never have time to study. So I use this chart. You can use it. I'm going to upload this in the session in the Moodle platform with the times, and you give them to the students and write here the daily activities, what they do in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening. Then in this activities routine, tell them when to fit English in their routine. So you say, oh, okay, here in the morning, 10 a.m., I'm just watching TV. Every day I do the same thing. Maybe that day, Monday, Wednesday, I don't watch TV, and I include here, review the workbook, review the lessons, do some listening exercises, whatever. So how to include English in their routine. So to show them that they can use this idle time to practice English. But there's a third column here which is very, very important. Sometimes the students do have time in their routine, they want to plan how to study, but they have a lot of distractions. They turn on the computer and they are like, okay, I'm going to listen to some music while I study. They play the first video on YouTube, then the second one, and they just forget about studying and they get distracted by YouTube music videos, or use the cell phone, or do something else. So it is an important thing to say, okay, how to avoid those distractions. So turn on the cell phone, or use the computer, or bring all the materials you have. Okay. Another activity that I do in class with them is like to develop these study skills. I use this chart in a different class, of course, and I can explain how to use this chart in the classroom with them, working pairs or trios or small groups, and is how to develop what study habits I need to have at home, right? What to do at home, like how the materials, but what not to do, avoid the distractions. And in class, what to do in class and what not to do in class. I use this format. I mean, I'm gonna upload it as well in the session 2 in the Moodle, so you can use it in class.